Yes. Kim Barrett,
Present.
Dan Bernal, George Blumenthal, Maria Bonneville,
Present.
Anne Marie Deliege,
Present.
Elena,
Present.
Elena Flowers,
Present.
Judy Gasson,
Here.
Vito Bassiani,
Here.
Steve Julesgaard,
Present.
Pat Levitt,
Present.
Linda Malkus,
Here.
Adriana Padilla.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum. Back to you, Judy.
Thank you very much, Claudette, and reminding everyone that this is a public meeting and welcome to any members of the public that may be joining us today. We have three matters to consider today that were prepared by our chair, Vito, and his team. The job description for the president and CEO, which we're currently recruiting. The description of the interaction between the chair of the ICOC and the permanent CEO and president, and the goals of our chair for the remainder of the year. Scott has informed me that the only item we need to vote on is the job description. So I'd like to do that first, just in case anybody has to drop off the call before the end. So to set the stage for that, a number of documents that had been generated in the past. Obviously, this position has changed over the 20 years of history of the organization, but the documents from the past that were assembled and reviewed include the internal governance policy, which lays out the responsibilities of the president and the CEO, job description that was on file, the executive briefs from both Korn Ferry and SRI, and a draft job description that was also generated last fall. So these items were provided to Vito and the senior team here, and we'll now go through the draft job description line by line, and anybody has any questions or comments, and then at the end of that, when we've made whatever modifications, we will take a vote. So Scott, thank you.
Great. Can everyone see that all right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Madam Chair, you want me to take it from here?
Sure.
Great. Thank you. And thanks everybody for doing this. I have to say, when I did the research for this, but by the way, Judy, I included Prop 14 in the list of documents as resources for this.
Thank you.
I could not, nor could anyone on this call who was in a position to help me, no one could locate a job description that went back any earlier than the one that was generated in 2023. So in a sense, this is all ex nihilo. It came out of nothing except by reference to documents. So if we can take a look at this, a job description and a duty statement for the position of president and CEO. The mandate are the two propositions. And I would leave it to Scott if he wants to fill in the CA, California Health and Safety Code. I just use the bibliographic reference here and there, but if he feels necessary to put the specific 10973 point whatever in there.
I believe just referencing the proposition, given that there are various charges that are written sort of throughout the document, whether it's in the sections governing working groups and various roles, that probably the cleanest way is just simply to refer to Prop 14 itself, which encompasses the entirety of those health and safety code provisions, would be my advice for this document.
So let's just end that with parenthesis 2020, close parenthesis, period. Okay. I'm going to remove California Health and Safety Code. Position description. The president shall be an experienced individual who manages the day-to-day operations of the Institute while understanding and promoting its mission. The president provides inspired leadership to the executive team, establishes solid working relationships with the board of directors, and provides a strategic vision for the future. The president serves as an ex officio member of each of the Institute's working groups. Continuing.
Vito, do you want us to provide comments paragraph for paragraph or just right at the end?
I would, Judy, don't you think we should go as we go along?
Definitely. Anne Marie, did you have a comment?
Yes, one about the process and the other one about the very first paragraph that you just read. One is I'm so glad that we're talking about that. There's nothing more important in our responsibility than doing what we're doing. I'm surprised, however, that we didn't get, or maybe I missed it. And if I missed, I apologize. The draft before so that we could provide our comments in writing, and our work together would be then to discuss a final document with everyone's input. Because I feel that if we're going to wordsmith a document as a team, this is going to be a little bit long, intense, not sure very productive. But being as it may, so I'm not sure if I missed something. I just want to know, I don't know what inspired leadership means, because I don't know of an uninspiring leadership, so I would just go with leadership. But maybe I miss a point about what is an inspired or inspiring leadership for that matter. But
Well,
that's it, over. Yeah.
thank you. I just, I'm sorry, everyone. I had to relocate from one room to another because there's too much going on in that room. Sorry. So in a word, Anne Marie, I wanted the position to be inspiring itself. And I don't, where is it? I don't think that I don't think it detracts from the position by overly burdening it. But we do want somebody who's inspiring.
So Vito, I'm uncomfortable wordsmithing a document as a team, but I would say you leave it as you want. If a person is not inspired by the position when applying to it, there's no point in that person applying. And I tell you, we'll detect that immediately, and this person will probably not move ahead during the interview process. I'm just saying I don't know of any leadership that is not inspiring. Otherwise, it's not a leadership, and that's redundant to me. And that's it. So I'll just say my opinion, but that's it. Yep.
I see a hand from Kim Barrett and then from Steve Julesgaard.
I just had a minor editorial thing. I believe we are the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, not of Regenerative Medicine. So that should be corrected throughout the document.
Thank you, Kim. Steve?
So as a counterpoint to Marie, I think we should leave the word inspired in. So Anne Marie, I don't know when you started at Genentech and when you left, but I will, in my own personal experience, equate two different leaders. One was Kirk Robb, who was replaced by Art Levinson. Kirk Robb was singularly uninspiring, whereas Art Levinson was very inspiring, and I think most employees of Genentech would agree with that. So you can have leadership and then you can have inspired leadership. They are different things in my vocabulary.
Point well taken. I don't know if we meant to be inspired or inspiring leadership.
Inspiring is probably a better word. I would agree.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Okay, good. Thank you.
Pat?
Yeah, I was going to say inspiring. So, deans of schools of medicine are leaders, and I've lived under 5 of them, and some are inspiring, meaning that they excite and encourage. That's the definition of inspire, and others don't. It's that they lead in a very top-down, defined way that leaves little to be excited about or encouraged about. So I think inspiring is a good edit, and I think we should leave it in.
I support that. It's a call to action for the leadership team. Okay. We're going on to the mission.
Mission. Thank you. Scott, is there any way to increase the size of the font there? Great. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thanks. Mission of CIRM. The California Institute for Regenerative Medicine is the state's stem cell agency. CIRM was created by the voters of California in 2004 with the passage of Proposition 71, providing $3 billion to invest in stem cell research in California, and extended in 2020 by the successful passage of Proposition 14 with an additional $5.5 billion. The mission of CIRM is, and I quote our mission, is to accelerate world-class science to deliver transformative regenerative medicine treatments in an equitable manner to a diverse California and world. Our mission infuses all our projects and inspires our workforce. Our highly trained team actively partners with all stakeholders to fast-track the development of promising stem cell and regenerative medicine technologies. CIRM is the world's largest institution dedicated to helping people by bringing the promise of regenerative medicine closer to reality.
I don't see any hands, Vito, so continue on, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. I just want to say, CIRM is the world's largest institution dedicated to. Are we sure it's the case? If we're sure, that's okay. But at times, superlative, like the world's largest institution. I wonder if that's correct. So be it. Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Anne-Marie just said. So if you're going to talk about the world's largest institution, you're including all the major pharmaceutical companies that are out there that I assure you are spending well over $5 billion per year on regenerative medicine therapies.
Right.
So
Would it help?
we need to modify it in some sense. It's the largest
Granting.
Maybe just one of the worst, world largest, one of the usually no one can disagree with that. So.
Could we say dedicated solely?
Or we are the largest granting institution.
Well, but you could say the NIH is
The
probably
NIH,
spending more money
exactly.
than we are too.
Good point. One of the worlds. I like that one.
Sorry, I'm trying
I know,
to field all of the, just to let you see what I've heard.
No, we said we didn't like that because that we're
Okay.
the NIH.
So it's got one
One
of
of.
the worlds, exactly.
Or Kim's proposal of dedicated to, so uniquely to.
I'm sorry, Steve, one more time?
Well, I kind of like Kim's suggestion, which is we're dedicated uniquely to bringing the promise.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be one of them. I think it probably qualifies for world's largest when you say dedicated uniquely.
Okay.
Okay. Very
Thank
good.
you. So what follows now are 5 subsections of where responsibilities of the president and CEO have been grouped together under themes. And I'll start with the first one, strategic vision. In a real sense, the citizens of California created the vision that engendered CIRM and infuses its work. It is the responsibility of the president to execute on that vision by understanding and developing the strategic plan, interpreting and executing it, and drop out the word by to preserve the parallelism, and regularly evaluating its success and communicating it to the public. The president will understand.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Vito. I see that Kim has her hand up.
Yes, thank you.
So in the paragraph before, you had the mission infusing its work. And in this one, you have the vision infusing its work. I don't know if we can have some alternative language there. And then the sentence below that is the responsibility of the president. It's not clear whether the "it's" in the last clause applies to the vision or the strategic plan.
Tell me again the first part of that. I don't think I was oriented to where you were.
So in the first sentence under the heading strategic vision, it says
Yes.
that the citizens created the vision that engendered CERM and infuses its work. In the previous section, you had the mission of CERM infuses its work,
That last sentence.
Ah, yes,
or
right.
infuses all our projects. So a bit too much of infusing. Maybe you could have inform at the first, for the first one, informs all our projects.
Yes, I'm,
Scott, back up to the one before. There's our mission informs. That's what you're saying, Kim?
Yeah,
good pickup?
sorry to be
No, that's the point.
Her other point was that we talk about there's a vision and a strategic plan. And we start in by saying that the vision helps develop a strategic plan. Then we're going to interpret and execute the strategic plan, not the
Yeah.
vision.
Yes, no, you're right, right.
The same thing goes with evaluating it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it interpret? I think also the verb, it is a responsibility of the president to execute. So the second clause,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
is that with interpreting and executing, or should it be interpret and execute?
I think the interpretation comes with understanding and development.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, right. So I'm going to run through these 6 points, although the first 2 of them strike me more as qualifications rather than as points in the job description, and be interesting to see if you agree or disagree. Number 1, the president will understand the scientific landscape and be able to anticipate and articulate the critical issues, opportunities, and threats in the foreseeable future. Number 2, be continually involved in productive dialogue with important stakeholder groups to create alignment, reinforce the mission, and communicate advances in basic and clinical science. 3, regularly evaluate the strategic plan to ensure it maintains pace with a rapidly changing scientific landscape and to propose adjustments or amendments to the plan as needed. 4, demonstrate creative thinking on the import of setting priorities within CERM's programs and budget. 5, communicate to the governing board as needed. I'm sorry, there's an extra word and in there, should go. As needed on new proposals, the state of ongoing projects, and how these endeavors help realize the strategic plan. And 6, identify bottlenecks that delay implementation of any of CERM's strategic goals and what actions are proposed to mitigate against them.
Okay, thank you. I see Steve's hand.
I want to focus on number 3, which is the strategic plan, because I have a little bit different point of view
Okay.
about where we are. So I would start with, this is just my opinion, so Scott, don't type anything in.
Okay. All right.
So start with, I would like the new president to assess our current strategic plan to see if it meets the needs of where we are currently. And I say that, based upon things that have been going on, and particularly we have, for example, all of these applications now for clinical work. And above and beyond that, we've had discussions about whether we should be more focused or whatever. And so I think we're sort of evolving a bit as an organization and changing perhaps how we're going to do things. So if we do that, that's the strategic plan needs to reflect this a different approach than the one we've got. And maybe we don't change anything, but I would have the new president assess the current strategic plan to see if it meets the current needs of the organization. And then in my view, when you have a strategic plan, you do a couple of things. One, first of all, I would set a 5-year time horizon for a strategic plan. And I would identify at the outset what it is that you want CERM to be like when the 5-year period is up. What will we have accomplished? What will the organization be able to say about itself, or and try to attempt to do that, and then set goals along the way. Set first of all the 5-year goals to go with the 5-year plan, but then annual goals that feed into the 5-year goals that help us get to where it is that we want to be at the end of 5 years. So I'm sorry for this long soliloquy, but I have a little different view of a strategic plan than perhaps the way that we've been using it to date. And it starts with whether or not we even have the correct strategic plan.
I think you've made an excellent point, Steve. Other thoughts from the members of the subcommittee?
I agree with Steve.
Kim?
I agree with the sentiment that Steve expressed, but I think we should try as far as possible to make this document not just specific for the time that we find ourselves, but more lasting. So I do think that the admonition to regularly evaluate the strategic plan encompasses whether the strategic plan is the right plan for the given time. But it isn't just the scientific landscape, it's other factors that might come to bear, like the rapid change in the application volume. I mean, in part, that's the scientific landscape, but it's also a mismatch between resources and opportunities. So whether we could qualify scientific landscape, but overall, I think that the point number 3 does address what Steve is asking, because it requires the president to evaluate if the strategic plan is the right plan, and if it's not, to adjust it or amend it.
Well, I would like to include the notion of having goals as part of the strategic plan, both 5-year, well, whatever the time horizon is that the strategic plan is designed to cover, along with annual goals. It needs to be a goal-oriented strategic.
I have no problem with that. That's a great suggestion.
Can I take a crack at it while you're
Great.
talking? Okay. Second.
As a friendly amendment, maybe we could say propose adjustments, amendments, or replacement of the plan as needed.
Oh my God.
I'm just spitballing here just to get it down. I can wordsmith it in a second.
Pat has his hand raised.
Oh, Pat, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so, and this is, I mean, these sentences are complicated to me, and I mean, I think, and to provide a vision and assessment of the organization's trajectory over time seems to capture all of this. We don't need to say 5 years. It's the trajectory that matters, both the vision and the assessment of the trajectory over time. We're already saying that the ensure meets the current needs of the organization and maintains pace with the to propose adjustments and amendments or replacements. So yeah, establish goals. I think the trajectory is the time dimension. which means we don't have to name a specific time. There should be a constant, there should be a regular evaluation in periods of time that will allow for adaptation and adjustments to meet the goals. So that's what trajectory means, and that's a time dimension. That's my recommendation. Otherwise, it gets too wordy.
That's my specialty, Pat. You're going to take me out of my only value add here.
No offense to any of the legal no, but anyway, you can edit however you want. I think sometimes it could be every year this is part of what they're doing, is to evaluate how things change rapidly. And so it's not just 5 years. It's like putting in, do we want them to assess how things are going 18 months from now or 3 years from now? So, yeah. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Scott, do you want to read that? And then we can all see how it sounds.
Sure. Over the trajectory of the existing strategic plan, to regularly evaluate the plan to ensure it meets the current needs of the organization and maintains pace with a rapidly changing scientific landscape. To propose adjustments or amendments or replacement of the plan as needed, and establish goals and set the course to achieve them.
As written, it doesn't completely fit with the syntax of the step.
Yeah,
The president will.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Kim. Say it one more time.
Sorry, as written, it doesn't necessarily fit the syntax of the president will.
Okay, yeah, let me go back when the meeting is concluded, just to make
Yeah,
sure
that's
that
fine.
there's agreement on that front. I'll make a note of that. But I guess,
But the sentiment is fine by me.
yeah,
Yeah.
Steve, is that more or less, it's not as eloquent as you stated.
Well, I'm not sure I stated it eloquently, but I think it does a good job of capturing this sentiment.
Okay, super, thanks.
So thanks to Stephen, Kim, and Scott, and everyone. And this is a really important goal, and I think it's worthwhile to try to set it out in a way that makes it clear that we're going to have to start by looking at what we have right now and determining whether that's where we want to be, given the rapidly changing organization.
Yep.
Okay, I don't see any other hands, so let's go on to leadership and communication.
Thank you.
Sorry, Judy, just one last thing. In point 5, I don't think as needed is needed. We just want them to communicate.
Good.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. Leadership and communications. The president of CIRM occupies a highly visible position, both. Oh, I think there's something wrong with both with the general public and the scientific, commercial, biotechnical, maybe that's commercial, biotechnical, and academic communities. I might need some help with that, folks. The position requires the ability to hold a dialogue with many different stakeholder groups, including patients, advocates, scientists, government officials, academics, industry, potential donors, and board members. The president will, 1.
I'm sorry, Vito. Steve?
No, wait till he's done and
Oh, okay, great. All right, go ahead.
Will, number one, demonstrate an appropriate understanding of and enthusiasm for CERM's mission. 2, cultivate a strong working relationship with the board and its chair and vice chair. 3, take the lead in modeling the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion in CERM's infrastructure, workforce, and research and clinical programs. 4, report back to the governing board the highlights of the president's participation in significant events in the regenerative medicine arena, parens, as panelist, keynote speaker, etc., close, or on events sponsored by CERM.
Okay, Steve, you have a comment on this section, please?
Sure. So what I'd like Scott to do, if you could scroll all the way back up to the beginning to the position description. Notice it says that the president provides inspiring leadership to the executive team, which I think is extremely important. Leadership begins at home. That's kind of the notion. When we go down to leadership, as we've just described it, those 4 different aspects, we leave out the fact that the leader needs to inspire, needs to lead the team, the group of people that are working at CERM. That's, from my point of view, that's where leadership really starts.
Excellent.
Could I just quote?
To the leadership team. Yeah, to the CERM.
Sorry, I just need to go up check.
Does that address your comments, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, actually, a great leader provides inspiring leadership to the entire organization. So I don't know if we want to
Yeah,
say.
I was going to say that. I mean, it's the job responsibility is not just with the small number of leaders on the team, but everybody on the team.
Yep.
Excellent. I have a comment on point 4-5 now. I think we want to reverse the order. The important thing is not to report back to the governing board. The important thing here is to participate in significant events in the regenerative medicine arena as a panelist, keynote speaker, etc. And then and then report back to the board about it. But we really want this person to be out there and representing CERM. Steve, did you have a further comment?
I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay.
Good point, though.
Oh, sorry, there's now another new color introduced. Apologies. It's a bit of a mess.
It's after St. Patrick's Day, though.
That's true. Apparently my computer is now celebrating.
You're just keeping us on our toes.
We understand that Scott will go back and correct any inconsistencies in the grammar, but we do want to vote on a document that's substantially what we're trying to say here. So thank you, Scott, for bearing with all of this editing.
Yep.
So participate in significant events in the regenerative medicine area as panelist, keynote speaker, etc., on an event sponsored by CERM, and report back to the governing board the highlights of those events. I'm good with that. Any other comments about that? Number 4 or 5, whatever it is. Okay, I don't see any hands, so we can go on to management.
Management. I should alert you before I start that I'm going to ask you to remove items 5 and 8 because they are redundant and will be repeated in articles in the subsequent section, but I'll read them as we go through. Management. The president will, number 1, delegate significant tasks to the leadership team to allow time for the president to engage in strategic thinking. Number 2, mentor the leadership team to enable professional and personal development. 3, engage in planning to ensure continuity of operations and put in place deep lines of succession. 4, manage and foster a diverse and culturally sensitive workforce and maintain CERM's principles of DEI. 5, this is the one I'm going to ask you to remove. Recruit top talent to fill vacancies or new positions as they occur. 6, manage a complex organization with success measured in well-defined metrics. 7, generate synergy by encouraging teamwork and fostering seamless working relationships between and among CERM's divisions. Recognize the force multiplier effect of an integrated team. And 8, ensure a commitment to quality and compliance with institutional and external regulations. 5 and 8 will be repeated in the next section, effectively items 4 and 5. Should we take a look at maybe 4 and 5?
Sure.
Yeah, good, thank you. If you see under administrative duties number 4, hire, direct, and manage the staff of CERM, with the exception of the chair and vice chair and their staff. And number 5, manage compliance with all policies and regulations adopted by the governing board, including the performance of all grant recipients. What number 8 includes that is not found in the next section is the first phrase, ensure, I'm sorry, Scott, it's the section 3.8, ensure a commitment to quality. Now that may be the hospitalist in me, that, you know, I don't know what you might think of that, that quality should permeate everything we do also.
Kim?
The point in 4 also doesn't speak to external regulations. So point 5 in number 4 only includes regulations adopted by the governing board.
That's right. So we would have to add compliance with institutional and external regulations, if somehow, to make that fit. Adopted by the governing board,
Oh,
I see you, Adriana. I'm just letting Scott finish typing.
That's okay. I have a quick comment on 5.
Oh, good. Okay, while we're on 5 then, please, go ahead.
I'm not sure if we want to have the president manage. He's got a team of professionals that should be there to manage. He needs to supervise and lead and coordinate, I think.
And
Some
oversee or something.
That's a lot of work to manage.
are we on section 3, number 4?
No, we're on
5.
section 4 still.
Number
Oh,
5.
Section 4, 5. Aha, the word manage.
That is a very he needs to lead, or she needs to lead. Otherwise we get into the same micromanaging issue.
That's a good point. You want to suggest a verb?
Oversee compliance of all policies and institutional external regulations.
That works for me.
And that way the person can delegate, designate, expect from his team leaders.
Okay, so let's go back up to 3.
Mhm.
And then I think we're comfortable deleting 5 and 8 at this point with the changes below in item 4.
And 5.
oh, Lord.
Good.
Is quality in or out? Did we want to leave in quality? I'm not hearing anybody say anything, so I
Yeah.
think we're just going to take that whole thing out.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on item number 3 before we move on to item 4?
Sorry, I'll back up.
I don't see any hands raised, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Madam Chair, proceeding.
Yes.
4, administrative duties. CIRM's president shall serve as the chief executive officer. They shall, it hurts me to, I'm trying to adopt to modern grammatic standards where the plural pronoun refers to the singular antecedent. They shall perform the duties of their office as set forth in the act, and such other duties as may be delegated by the chair or approved by the governing board. The president will recruit the highest scientific and medical talent to serve the institute on its working groups. 2, direct the staff of CIRM's working groups and participate in the process of developing recommendations for all grants, loans, facilities, and standards. 3, work with the Access and Affordability Work Group, Intellectual Property and Industry Subcommittee, and Science Subcommittee chairs to develop direction and programs related to access and affordability as per Proposition 14. 4, hire, direct, and manage the staff of CIRM with the exception of the chair and vice chair and their staff. 5, oversee compliance with all policies and institutional and external regulations, including the performance of all grant recipients. 6, recommend to the board for its consideration an organizational and administrative structure that supports the institute and strategic plan. 7, be responsible for setting the salary for all employees except the chair and vice chair and their staff. And finally, 8, have the discretion to make job classification changes for employees.
Pat. You're on mute, Pat.
So for number 4, hire, direct, and manage, when I read that, means that this individual will hire, direct, and manage the staff. You understand what I'm saying? They will do the hiring, they will do the direction, and they will manage. And that's not what the position's doing. Right?
Yeah, it's just the leadership team, right? Exactly. I mean, you want the leadership team to be involved in their own department or what, taking care of it. So.
Yes.
That's what I had in mind, Pat, but I didn't express it precisely enough. Thank you.
Adriana?
Yeah, for number 2, direct the staff of CIRM's working groups and participate. Maybe it should say instead of participate, to oversee the process of developing. I think they need to take a step up into the overseeing versus participate.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, catching that.
I mean, again, is the president directing the staff of the working groups? So if I'm reading this job description and I'm looking at this is my responsibility as president, I'm going to be directing the staff for all of the working groups? I don't think so.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Let's see.
Oversee the leadership that directs the staff.
Or oversee all working groups and the process of developing recommendations.
Something like that.
Right. We have people in this meeting who are in or heads of working groups. How does that, Maria, do you have a feeling on that with this particular correction?
No, I think that's fine.
Uh-huh, thank you.
The number 8, can that be done in the absence of an approval by Human Resources?
I think that's an outstanding point. So I think it needs to be a collaborative process, cooperative process.
I think all organizations have an HR that
Exactly.
have, yeah, so
Yeah, with HR.
HR has to be involved in point 8.
Okay.
If I could make a really quick point
Yeah.
when you're done here with the working groups. The working groups are working groups of the board. And generally the working groups take up issues and subject matter based on board conversations, based on board strategy and things to that nature. The president in the past has worked with the chair of the board, as well as the chairs of the working groups, which generally involve board members in a lot of instances. And so therefore, I think this works. I just wanted to make sure that there was a distinction between, the work, how the working groups are involved and who the working groups are there to support.
Sorry, Maria, are you speaking to number 2 or number 3 or just in general?
In general, always, because that's
Yeah.
me, but number 2 specifically.
Okay.
So if you can, I think this is okay, but I just want to make sure that sentiment is there.
Could we say in collaboration with the board, oversee the operations?
Mm. Mhm.
It just occurred to me in looking at 2 and 3, if in looking at number 3, I just want to tease out, is it that the president would need to work with just these 3 committees as being the primary ones that impact access and affordability? Or, what would be the rationale for calling out the particular subcommittees as opposed to all subcommittees of the board? Just wondering if there was a theory behind specifically identifying these 2 as opposed to, any that might be.
Or just the AAWG as its charge.
Yeah.
I agree. I think we take out the specific reference to IP and industry and science.
I
The
agree.
AWG should work with whomever they need to work with.
Yeah,
Right.
Linda, I agree with that. Good point.
Thanks, Linda, Maria, and Scott. Okay, so work with the AAWG.
Sorry.
That's okay, to develop direction and programs related to access and affordability as per Prop 14. Maria, are you okay with that? Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, I believe we're going on to finance now.
Okay, this is the last section before the end. The president and the chair of the board each have areas of financial responsibility. The chair has primary responsibility for ensuring that CIRM has the financial resources to operate and fund awards. The president has primary responsibility for ensuring proper use of the operating budgets approved by the governing board, as well as the proper use of funds by CIRM's grantees. The president will, 1, develop the budget and cost controls of CIRM, with the assistance of CERM's finance staff and presented to the governing board for approval. 2, implement the approved budget and report on any significant changes in a timely manner to the governing board. 3, develop the research budget and resource allocation strategy. And 4, develop connections and partnerships with the biomedical sector to co-sponsor and support CERM programs for the delivery of research and clinical opportunities.
So I have a question on number 2, implement the approved budget and report on any significant changes in a timely manner. Doesn't the president have to request board approval for a substantive change in the budget items?
Let's see, implement the approved budget report.
Because we approve a budget at the beginning of the year and then.
Judy, can I suggest report be replaced by seek approval?
Sure.
Good point. Seek approval on these changes.
That's good. Okay. Other thoughts about finance, number 5?
I'm not sure what's meant by clinical opportunities. They're all research opportunities, right? So you could say research opportunities because that's what we're funding. We're funding research. Right? And that includes clinical trials. Those.
No, you're right. You're right. Absolutely.
So.
Well, I would, Pat, I would beg to differ, at least in the commercial world, there's a distinction between research and clinical activity. They're two completely different separate areas. Research feeds in hopefully ultimately into the clinical area with some, lead compound to go forward with. So I think,
I understand, but they all need IRB approval, which to me defines it as research. And so when I say clinical opportunities, it sounds like CERM is going to be promoting clinical use, right? Not in the context of research, but rather just clinical use. And that's where
And CERM does.
because I don't understand what a clinical opportunity is that we fund other than research.
So I'll give you an example. So we have this collaborative arrangement with the NIH to help co-fund sickle cell anemia clinical trials.
Yes.
And that's what I would take to mean a clinical opportunity. That got presented to us by the NIH, and to test our willingness to go in with them to help fund certain sickle cell clinical trial efforts.
Right.
And that's why
Steve, I completely agree with that, but that requires IRB approval, which makes it research. So we don't need.
You and I just have a different view of what the world what research.
No, it's IRB is IRB. I don't make up the rules.
You come from one part of the world. Yeah, IRB for me means clinical stuff, not research stuff. All the research stuff, at least that I'm aware of, in an industrial organization, has no IRB approval. It just gets done.
Okay.
Vito, you took your hand down?
No, I didn't, but I was going to give priority to Kim. She's a great redactor here. Kim?
Well, I tend to agree with Pat that clinical studies are research, but we don't, whether it's research or clinical, we don't deliver opportunities.
Right.
We take advantage of opportunities, perhaps with partners, but we don't deliver them.
To support certain programs for the delivery of.
You want to just delete that whole clause and dodge the problem?
I don't understand this clause because I took it from Prop 14. So, yeah, we can remove it. That doesn't mean we're not going to follow the law.
I think we should remove it. I think it makes it confusing
Yeah.
because you're really looking for co-funding opportunities, right? But
Well, I think of all the bullet points in the entire document, this is the most nebulous, and so I have no problem with your removing it.
I think the way you have it now is fine. Support, right? The person is developing connections and partnerships with biomedical sector to co-sponsor and support CERM programs.
yep.
I think that that's fine.
Oh, okay.
I like it too that way. It works well.
Okay, very good. I don't see any other hands on this one, so supervision received.
Okay, thank you. Well, this actually is the most difficult part of the document. And I think let's see, are you reading the most recent copy? Yes. The original document that I wrote, my first draft, said the president reports to the board, period. I may have taken a few more syllables to say that, but in talking to a lot of board members, they thought that that was too bald-faced and downplayed the position or the role or the influence of the chair and the vice chair of the board. So here's what I came up with, and I really would hope that you would tinker with this to improve it if it needs it. The president reports to the Independent Citizens Oversight Committee, the board of CIRM, while respecting the chair of the board as the conduit of guidance and advice from the board, as well as a means of communicating with the entire board.
Kim?
I think I'm okay with this as long as you say that it's respecting the chair of the board as a conduit of guidance and advice. It's by no means the only conduit for guidance and advice.
I like that.
I do.
I'm trying to see the hands, but just one thing. Does the president reports to the chair of the board? Is that right? No? I thought. Okay.
No, reports
So
to-
whom does he represent? The board in general? There has to be a representative.
No, it's the board as a whole.
Anne-Marie, in a commercial organization, everyone I've been associated with, the chairman, the CEO reports to the board, not to the chairman of the board.
Okay. Okay. But I thought it was you had to report to a person at the minimum, but no, maybe not. Okay. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands.
I'll continue. The supervision exercise and members of the CIRM leadership team, members of the office of the president, the working conditions, these are copied from other documents. Be available for work outside of normal business hours. I'm laughing because of I understand what that means. Be available, be able to travel worldwide as necessary. And I presume I could put the full address of the headquarters building there. And that's it.
Any comments on the last couple of sections here?
Generally, in a job description, the rough assessment of traveling time is indicated. On average, 20%, 40%, 60%, so that there's sort of a general guidance and what to expect. But that's a very minor comment.
We could take some time to come together on what an estimate of that might look like, Anne-Marie. And then when this comes back in a couple of weeks to the full board meeting, we could have a suggestion along that lines. Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that very often, but
Yeah.
totally up to you. It's minor. Thank you.
Sure. To be honest, I'm now thinking that there may be an estimate already in our presidential brief that is being used for the search. So let me check that out, and we'll make sure that we're in agreement here.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands at this point. So Steve, go ahead, please.
So just one question for the group in general. Would we expect that this person reside in the Bay Area once they become the president? That would be my expectation, by the way.
I agree.
Good point, Stephen. Yeah, I would agree, probably because of the challenges that the CIRM had went through. That means that a person as good as he or she is would still have to spend a fair amount of time in the office. And mentioning this means that somewhere it should be said, expected to work at the office location. Otherwise, you would say Bay Area preferred, meaning not absolutely necessary. So there's a nuance that is well taken and could be captured.
Actually, can I bring
Rick?
something up? Our
Please.
policy right now is, expected in office is Tuesday, Wednesday. And so I guess the question I would have is, do we expect that they are Bay Area residents, or do we expect them to be in the Bay Area as needed? And then what that, and I'm not suggesting either. I just want to make sure there's clarity, because I think that's important.
Steve?
Well, I've said this before, and I'll just say it again. I would expect them to live in the Bay Area, to be present, every business day of the week. I find it unusual that would not be the expectation of CEO or president of an organization.
But if none of the rest of the staff is there, what are they doing in the office?
The staff are there. They're doing whatever needs to be done. They've got a board to work with. They've got outside people to work with, et cetera. It's not just all about the staff. It's about all of the different aspects of their job.
But not all of that is in the Bay Area. So I think it's difficult to make something that's not congruent with the current existing policies, but you might say that the president will align with existing CERN policies on virtual and hybrid working conditions.
Well, I guess I would disagree with that, in the sense that I think most organizations that do have hybrid policies, they apply further down the line. They don't necessarily apply at the level of the CEO or president. I don't know that there's alignment in organizations that would say that the president or the CEO gets to have the same, kind of flexibility that we allow people further down in the organization to have. I think we ought to have this discussion at the level of the whole board, just to see.
I guess it also depends on your definition of the Bay Area.
This is Scott just jumping in. I think one of the practical consequences of how you come down on this is also, what the expectations of reimbursement might be. If you allow someone to live elsewhere as such, is there an expectation then that we're also going to have to cover their expenses to travel for the mandatory days in the office, for instance? That's purely discretionary, but it just, to my mind, raises that issue. If you don't require we have circumstances where we have employees who are not in the Bay Area, and we do not cover their travel to come to the office. But there are some circumstances where we do. If it's a required to attend a meeting, if it's required attendance outside of the 2 days, there are circumstances where there can be exceptions. So just something more we can dig into to provide additional context. But I agree, it's probably a good idea to have this conversation with the full board.
Pat?
Yeah, I think we should have it with the full board. I was just going to say, it's not the case that all requirements for on-site or hybrid or remote work are consistent for every individual in the organization, because individuals have different responsibilities. So I tend to agree with Steve on this, but we should talk about it with the full board.
Kim?
I just think we should be cautious in a job description about prescribing where people can live. If somebody chose to live in Sacramento and take the train every day to San Francisco to get to work, that's up to them, not up to us.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we're going to consider this with the full board in terms of the at the office responsibilities and location. Are there any other comments on the document that we reviewed just now? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve this draft with the edits that have been made during this governance subcommittee call.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the members of the committee? I see no hands. Is there any outside comment from the members of the public?
And we're looking,
There are no hands raised.
no hands.
Okay, I think we are then ready to call the roll.
Kim Barrett,
Aye.
Dan Bernal,
Aye.
George Blumenthal, Maria Bonneville.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, they both came. Linda Boxer, Anne Marie DeLiege,
Yes.
Elena Flowers,
Yes.
Judy Gasson,
Yes?
Vito Bassiani,
You're on mute, Vito.
Yes. Thank you.
Steve Julesgaard,
Yes.
Pat Levitt,
Yes.
Linda Malkus,
Yes.
and Adriana Padilla.
Yes.
Great, thanks very much. We'll make these conforming changes and bring it back for the full board in a couple of weeks.
Okay, moving along. I misspoke at the beginning of the meeting and I apologize for that. In the last 20 minutes that we have available, we're going to talk about the document generated by our chair on the interaction between the chair and the president and the CEO. And we're going to thank the chair for providing a document of his goals for the rest of the year and fold that into the performance evaluation and the self-assessment going forward. And I see the chair nodding, so we're good to go.
Thanks
So
for that clarification.
you're very welcome. So Scott, if you could
Yes.
call up document 2, Steve.
Yeah, there's a board chair's plan for onboarding, or is there going to be any discussion of that?
I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Okay, got it. I mean, my only point is it talks about and possibly the interim president. I don't understand why we definitively wouldn't involve the interim president in the onboarding process.
Mhm.
Sorry, we just.
I know we have to find the right version.
Yep. Okay, now we're ready.
This looks like the job description.
I'm sorry, I did what you sent me. Stand by.
Oh. The one from earlier, I thought you said send you the interview. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, does this work? Can everyone see that okay?
that looks good, Scott. We can see it.
Okay.
Thanks. Shall I take it from here, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
please.
Okay, great. This is titled Report 3 of 4 to the ICOC, to this committee. Role of the chair after the selection of the new CERM president and CEO. Oh, I see it's been titled to onboarding new CERM. Okay, good. It is expected that CERM's presidential selection process will identify a new president to be installed sometimes during 2024. That individual, depending on their past proximity to CERM and its activities, will need exposure and guidance in many areas as they grow to fill the role. Sources of support will include the chairman of the board, the entire leadership team, and the governance subcommittee of the board. The new president will need a detailed and comprehensive onboarding curriculum, an extensive orientation to our personnel and programs, a foundational working knowledge of the specific laws that govern state agencies and CERM in particular, and exposure to many of our important stakeholder groups. The president CEO reports to the governing board, and that board delegates to the chair a special burden of providing regular, proactive guidance to the new executive and working collaboratively to develop and execute CERM's strategic vision.
Thank you. And Maria?
Could you add the vice chair? The sources of support will include, considering I've been at the organization for a really long time. I think I can provide a level of support to that end. Thank you.
And rather than chairman, if we could just say the chair and the vice chair.
That was Maria's very apt way of saying she knows more than I do, and that is certainly the case.
No, just I can be
Oh,
helpful.
no, it's perfect addition, right?
I mean, the responsibilities are somewhat overlapping, but also somewhat distinct. So I think
Well,
that's a good point.
Also, I didn't know if Maria was not drafting a document like this for herself. Where am I? To this end, the chair proposes to meet this opportunity by, number one, creating, along with the vice chair and possibly the interim president, should he be willing, an all-encompassing curriculum that would cover such topics as our foundational propositions and supporting legislation, the organizational and hybrid structure of CIRM governance, the budget process, the strategic plan and its pillars and programs, conflict of interest, composition and role of the ICOC, and many other topics. 2, reviewing with appropriate experts the major RFA and RFPs and concept plans that are in the process of development. 3, creating several roundtable discussions to allow more nuanced understanding of our neurodisease portfolio and the neuro task force. I added prioritization at this point, semicolon. The evolving community care centers of excellence and the patient support program and fund. Thank you. And recent changes to our EDOC, infra, and CLIN programs. 4, facilitating meetings between the president and the chairs and co-chairs of working groups and the subcommittees of the board. 5, establishing a regular schedule of one-on-one meetings between the chair and the president. The vice chair will likely do the same. 6, depending at what point in the fiscal year the new CEO is installed, review how the 24-25 budget was created and how it has been expended to date.
Okay. I don't see any hands. Okay. You can continue on.
That's the end of that document, Madam Chair.
Okay. Steve. You're on mute, Steve.
I'm sorry, back to the question I prematurely raised earlier, which is when it says possibly the interim president, I would think that we definitively want to involve the interim president since he's been having experience in the most recent issues involving CIRM in the last several months, plus, you know, his extended experience with CIRM over 12 plus years. So I think he has a lot to add to this onboarding process, and I would remove the possibly, assuming that's okay with Vito and Maria.
Absolutely.
If I can just add on to that, Steve, Maria and our present interim president just developed an onboarding curriculum that they involved me with. And it was administered over the course of a month during regular meetings. And so he's got a lot of experience with the actual didactic process too.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's excellent news.
I don't think we need to put the interim president in parentheses. Makes it sound like they're an afterthought.
Okay. We don't need to vote on this item, and unless there are any other final comments, I think we will be able to adjourn this meeting, and thank you all. Thank you, Vito, for putting these documents together with your vice chair and the interim president, the interim CEO, president, and all of your team. And thank you all for coming to this meeting. And we'll see each other hopefully in person next week in South San Francisco.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thanks, everyone.
And thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Scott.
Judy, as always.
Bye.